Got more news about the RLCS in the past couple days, and it's not great news. It's related to the commentators who are going to be back for RLCS 2024. Now, before we get too deep into this, you guys start speculating. I am not going to be a part of the RLCS 2024 team, and I never was really expecting to. In fact, I was expecting a lot of people to get dropped off, and unfortunately, the reality of that has started, and it all started 2 days ago with Spaceman. Spaceman announcing that he gave it all he got, but he's not going to be brought back for RLCS 2024, which is, of course, very disappointing. Spaceman was a guy who had been doing a really great job and been improving a lot. You see his activity on Twitter. He's very focused on improving in his game, and he did these top 10s that were really exciting in the last couple lands. And so it's going to be too bad. It's going to be too bad that we weren't going to get Spaceman back, and it wasn't clear whether or not this was going to be the start of the trend of finding out who was in and who was out. But we know at the last World Championship that there was a lot of commentators. A lot of desk host analysts, everything. You could see a ton of people worked on the RLCS, and everyone knew that with the downsizing, with there being less splits, less prize money, less going on, that there was going to be less commentators. The Blast is taking over, and I assume, they need to be on a tighter budget. So who all is going to drop? Well, as time went on, we got news of a few more. It's all coming from Twitter, from the people it happened to. Subi Smash mentioning that he is also not renewed. He's the guy who did a lot of interviews in between matches at LANs, as well as did some commentating, wore the nice chains. He's the guy who had the classic moment of saying, you're not going to want to go anywhere, so don't go anywhere. That has become, a meme in the community. So it's going to be a bummer to see Subi Smash not return. And he continued to not be the only one. Achieves also not getting picked back up for RLCS 2024, according to his Twitter, which is unfortunate. He's been around the game for a really long time. He's considered one of the best analysts in the game, so having him on the mic has always been great. And he's actually going to try and keep being an analyst. He's going to hopefully join in and coach. He's going to try and coach and stay involved in Rocket League in that way. But he's not the only one. As I've talked about before, this morning, Turtle announced that he is not going to be back. Turtle, a player once in the RLCS, converted to a commentator after retiring, and now he's unfortunately done. That's when he's talking about his 15, or he's been playing and doing Rocket League things since he was 15. That started as a player. Unfortunately, we're not going to be seeing Turtle back, although I do like Turtle's stream. You should check out his stream and his music, both very good, in order to, stick with Turtle and everybody else. But I started to wonder, of all of these people you see on this list, how were they deciding who gets to stay and who gets to go? And I think one of the objective ways you could look at who is a top performer in commentating is you could look at who gets to cast the grand finals, the biggest, most important Rocket League events of the past couple of years. And the last grand finals was run by CJ, and Shogun, but originally CJ was a sub-in for Johnny, so Johnny and Shogun were going to do it. And the one before that was done by Corelli, James Bott, and Jorby. So you might be thinking, certainly those guys are probably the safe guys since they're apparently the best we have to offer, but apparently that's not true. Corelli, a guy who has casted a grand finals, I think this is a photo of him casting that grand finals when BDS won, is not going to be able to come back, which is too bad. He's also going to be looking for a coaching job. Effective immediately, I'll start looking for a coaching job. So hopefully we could see him involved in the future. Maybe we even see an Achieves versus Corelli coached game. I think Corelli, I've been commentating with him recently on some events, and he's amazing at it. I mean, he's one of the best. There's a reason why he was included in the grand finals. And it's too bad that we're not going to have him back. There's not much more to say about that. So I started thinking, okay, if grand finals is not an indicator of who gets to stay, well, maybe an award. Maybe if these players or these commentators who were nominated for awards or even won them, they're probably safe because not only are they the best in the RLCS community, they're the best in the entire community. And there's a few different awards of the esports awards that get given away: colorcaster, host, and play-by-play caster. And so let's just look through the past 3 years. You could see Johnny nominated for colorcaster. You could see Wavepunk and Leaf nominated for host of the year, and Shogun for play-by-play. None of them won in 2020 or 2021. And then 2022, all of them nominated again. Wavepunk nominated. This time, James Bott nominated, another guy who did a grand finals, and Jorby, another guy who did a grand finals. So all of these names, seeming like probably the names that are safe. We look at the most recent year, Johnny and Shogun again for colorcaster and play-by-play, and then Wavepunk actually full-on won the host of the year. So congrats to him. So certainly those names are safe, right? Certainly all of those guys are going to be back for the next RLCS season. Well, no, because also Jorby announced yesterday that he is not going to be coming back to the RLCS. Now, the good news is that Jorby has had a day to think on it. It seemed like he was not super excited about it in the moment. Obviously, I mean, it's crazy that we're seeing Jorby leave the game. I thought Jorby was one of the untouchables for the reasons I kind of talked about before. We're almost having an award-winning commentator in RLCS. But he sent out this message saying, he's not going anywhere, that he's going to stay working in Rocket League as best he can. He's going to start doing his streams. If he hasn't seen his streams, you should check them out. They're Rocket League related, doing Blue versus Orange. He basically commentates your games. So if you want to see more Jorby commentating, that's where you should go. But it's too bad. You can see this whole CRL crew, unfortunately, not making it back to continue in the RLCS, which is wild. These are people who have become the voice of the game, and people are not going to be happy with Epic. That's the reality. They had to cut people, and so they needed to go somewhere with it. Unfortunately, they picked some of the best players, the best commentators, but there's really not much you could do. There's always going to be good commentators, and it's hard to say who has to go. But I don't know. No one's going to be excited with Epic. I think the only way they can really, really lose is if they were to bring on like Fortnite casters. People are going to be really, really mad if they do end up doubling up Fortnite casters with Rocket League, because that kind of represents everything that people don't like. The fact that Rocket League is moving towards, a more Fortnite model, and Fortnite seems to be more important than Rocket League in Epic's eyes. So that's the only way I think they really, 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 really mess up. But everyone is pretty upset right now. The only way this is going to heal is probably with the RLCS just starting to pick up and having new memories to be generated. But as far as the other people on the list, Lemon Kiwi mentioned that it's a horrible day, devastating news for her friends. I don't know if that means that maybe it's just her friends that are having devastating news, or if she's going to be back or not. It's not super clear. Kind of same thing with Stacks. He says, he's been distracting himself, and if he had news either way, he wouldn't announce it today. And then Dazarin, a little bit more the same from him as well. He's upset, but mostly upset for his friends. Almost seems to imply that he'll be back. Based on what Cole and Stumpy did in terms of responding to other people, it almost seems like they're still in. At least they've been active on Twitter, and they haven't announced that they're not going to be in. So where does that leave us? From that initial list, where are we at? I've kind of highlighted the people who have been confirmed not in red, and the people that are award-winning cast members, or not award-winning, but award-nominated cast members, assuming they'll stay, which is not a fair criteria considering Jorby did not get re-upped, and he was one of those people. That would mean Shogun, Johnny, JamesBot, Leaf, and Wave are going to stick around. Then everybody else I have in yellow. Either, they said something on Twitter that was not them saying that they didn't make it back into the RLCS, which kind of, to me, almost implies that they will be back. And then we haven't heard anything really from the Aussies, but I have to assume they'll be back because somebody needs to do the Aussie casts, whether they're at the lands again or not. So they had to be back in some capacity, I would imagine. Haven't heard anything from T-Bates. T-Bates has been wildly popular. I imagine they'll take him back. Veracity is just doing those interviews. So this is the state. This is the state of Rocket League. This is what we knew we were going to cut probably in half the people that were, I guess I didn't know how much they were going to cut, but it looks like they're cutting like at least in half. Maybe there's some of the people you liked, maybe some of the people you didn't like, but the reason why I didn't just say, these are the people I liked, I used examples, grand finals and esports awards, because those are subjective and, are collective agreements instead of just one person's opinion. But man, it's too bad. It's too bad. All these guys are incredibly talented, and the fact that we're not going to keep them around in RLCS is too bad. Maybe they'll work their way back in. Hopefully they stick around. I don't know who's going to stick around, who's going to give up on it, but I don't know, man. We need to start getting some good news for the RLCS. The Epic needs a PR team or something, some way to help out and not make this so terrible. Because I think one of the big things that people are so upset about too is that all of these people in red thought that they were going to get a contract, or at the very least, had a really good feeling they were. Or had a chance. And so they've been sitting the past offseason 5 months or so with an expected job that has now been taken away from them. So it's tough. There's obviously changes that need to be made, and things need to be handled better. Right now, the onus is getting switched hands from purely Psyonix over to these guys at Blast. Hopefully in the future, everything will be a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more communicated. But that's what everyone's been asking for the longest time. Are we going to get it in the future? I don't know. Hopefully we stick around and get all these people to stay in the scene. We see them at events still. I don't know if they'll go to LANs and hang out. Might be a bit too painful. But there it is. That's the news. If you guys didn't know, it looks like the commentating team looking a lot slimmer than it was in the past. Will we end up keeping all the people who are in yellow? Will we grab nude people? Like I said, new people would be accepted by the community if you ask me, but it just can't be Fortnite casters. It can't be Fortnite halfway casters. People will not like that. But either way, those are the commentators. Let me know what you think in the comments.